Is the Woodman's Pal from Skyline Toolworks a viable tool for the 21st century, or is it just a substandard product that's riding on the coattails of a timeless American classic? Let's talk about it. Now, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but this is probably going to be one of the most in-depth reviews that you're going to see on these tools on YouTube, just because not only do we have both tools currently offered by Skyline Toolworks, the leather-handled version with the D-guard, but we also have the wooden-handled version right here. We have these, and we get to test their warranty service with a real-life scenario, so that's super kick-ass. We're going to talk about that. That's why I have two of these. Now, when it comes to the history of the Woodman's Pal, and I'm saying it Woodman's Pal because that's how it is. It's not Woodsman's Pal, it is Woodman's Pal. It sounds super weird to the 21st century ear. I know, it's got a bit of a tongue twister trying to say Woodman's Pal super quick. The Woodman's Pal, the OG one anyways, came about around 1941 when a Swiss national by the name of Friedrich Ersum settled in Pennsylvania. He was doing his thing, looking around, and he saw the need for an all-in-one brush cutting agricultural horticultural tool, and so he combined the brush hook on the back with a convex blade on the front, a couple of other things like the digging implement on the front that we'll talk about a little bit later. All of that, he put it into one, he started manufacturing it, and he patented it in 1941. It is a small, compact, well-balanced, lightweight tool that became insanely popular with woodsmen, foresters, and all the other stuff, all of the above. Now, that takes us to the beginning of the 1940s. Now, if you don't know anything about the 1940s, that was a real hot and poppin' time in world history. We had just joined World War II, the sequel to the Great War. Yeah, so we were looking for neat and niche things that we could implement for our troops to help us win that war. So when the old Woodman's Pal came into view of the U.S. military, the U.S. Army Signal Corps actually went out and got themselves a bunch just so they could clear trails, blaze a whole bunch of trails, and string up wires and clear areas for radars, radios, whatever they had to do. I don't know, signalmen are weird, so they just do their own thing. They decided this was going to be a good fit for them. And it was only a matter of time before the rest of the Army decided to start using it as well. It was hugely popular in the Pacific, and it was also implemented to great extent for pilot survival kits. Now, up until this point in history, the Woodman's Pal looked something like this. However, when the U.S. military got a hold of it, they did what the U.S. military does best. They started changing all kinds of shit, and it ended up looking something like this. So instead of the wooden handle down here, they went with a stacked leather handle right up here, almost like you see in the K-bar fighting knives and the Navy Mark Is. That, in the military's eyes, made it a more effective all-around tool. So in addition to changing the whole design of the Woodman's Pal, the military did what they also love to do, and they started printing all kinds of TMs and FNs and manuals and all that good stuff that they would give your little conscript airman in addition to his little Woodman's Pal. Now we have historical versions that you'll see when you get an actual Woodman's Pal today because they come with these little manuals. Isn't that so neat and quaint? So we have this first one, Living in the Jungle, Care, Use, and Sharpening, Survival Tool, Kit, Airman's. Then we have Fighting with USA Knife LC-14 Bravo. So it teaches you how to fight with said Woodman's Pal. Isn't that nice? Because look at that. You got to defend yourself against a Japanese officer with a katana. We love to see that. If you don't think America is going to turn even the most simple survival tool into a fighting weapon when we're at total war, you're absolutely incorrect. And if you don't like it, you can get the hell out of here. I digress. Anywho, Americans get a big kick out of going to war. It's kind of our thing, actually. Now, the LC-14 Bravo, as the U.S. military would call this thing, aka the Woodman's Pal, would go on to serve in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and they say on the website up until the modern day, I guess through private purchase, but I've never personally seen or heard of the Woodman's Pal being used anywhere past Vietnam. Maybe in the 80s, who knows. Anyways, moving on. Now, when it comes to the Woodman's Pal, full transparency, they're pretty damn expensive. Even for a made in USA tool, these things are gonna run you 150 bucks. Ouch. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. I would not recommend these tools to really anybody. I bought these tools with, well, at least I bought one of these tools with my own hard-earned money. So, you know, a lot of the other reviews that I see on YouTube of these tools They say that they don't buy reviews or sponsor anybody really on their website. However, more than a handful of the Woodman's Pal reviews that I've seen on YouTube say that Woodman's Pal sponsored them.
The folks at Woodman's Pal were kind enough to send me this one so I could show it to you.
Now, again, I am sponsored by this company, so is this a paid review? Kind of.
So, a little sus, you know what I mean? It got super windy. That's not cool. Chill out, wind, trying to review this tool. First thing you see a burlap sack. Inside your burlap sack, you have all of your historical manuals that we talked about earlier, all 4 of them. You have a nice Woodman's Pal sticker so you can slap on your gun safe or your Nalgene, whatever suits your fancy. And you also have business card and a simple sharpening stone. It's double-sided. They have a fine and a coarse side. Finally, you'll have your Woodman's Pal complete with the leather sheath, whether it be the wooden handled version or the leather handled version. All of that in the same neat little package. Now that we've talked about all the stuff you're going to get in the box when you order one of these things, let's talk about the specs for the individual tool itself. So you have the Woodman's Pal right here. The overall length of the blade is 12 inches with an overall length from tip to pommel of 17 inches. This thing is 1077 cold rolled spring steel, which, I mean, it's a pretty good steel for what this thing is. It's gonna hold an edge pretty well. You're not gonna have to worry about that thing chipping and breaking in the cold, which is especially important for me up here in Alaska. It's gonna be easy to sharpen, and it's gonna be just an overall pretty good steel for it. It will rust, so they've done a matte powder coat, as they say, on the blade. We have a permanently coined sickle blade right up here. Coin just means that it's punched down a little bit, so it's thinner than the rest of the blade. We have that up here. We have your sickle with the rounded safety tip at the very tip of it right here, just so you don't catch it on anything. It makes pulling it out of a sheath super easy. We have your trenching end, which according to the manual, the trenching end you could use to dig with this tool. Now there is a reason they have taken it out. They said that they have removed the trenching end just because it is a liability and safety issue. They don't want people digging with this tool and risk their fingers sliding forward, which, if you know anything about 21st century lawsuits, is a genuine concern. People are stupid. Now we have a blunted safety toe down in here, which, you know, it makes sense just because if the tip was super thin right up here with a sharpened blade, and you start chopping around and you accidentally hit the dirt more than a few times, that part being super thin would wear away remarkably fast. So they left it really thick up here just to prevent blade wear. Right on. So now we have a convex blade right out here. The cutting length of that blade is 8 inches. Not a lot. It's actually a pretty short cutting edge. So we have 8 inches right up there. We have the handle back in here. The handle uses 32 stacked leather discs if you get the leather handled version. We have a thumb guard right up here, the squared off D guard for your hand, and we have just a plain Jane handle, no frills on the back. We have a pommel that is secured with a small Allen wrench. Now, if you end up getting the wooden handled version of this particular tool, the blade is the exact same as the leather handled version. However, the actual blade length is 10.5 inches now, with an overall length from tip to butt of 17.5 inches. So you have a 7-inch wooden handle in the back right over here. Instead of the stacked leather and metal D guard, you have what they say is an Amish handmade ashwood handle back here with brass screws that secure it. And we have a little leather thong with what looks like a thin piece of wood as a little toggle and a brass Chicago button rivet holding it all together. The tang for this handle right here only extends about that far back. Now you can probably see it in the top. Now the tang goes to about right here, and then it's just straight handle going all the way back. On the very bottom you can see it poking through. So the tang goes to right about here, and then kind of just diagonals off. Now it's not technically full tang, however, it's most tang. Is it gonna be strong enough for average use? Probably. Not the other one, we'll talk about that, but this one Who knows? Maybe it'll hold up, maybe it won't. I'll see with future testing, we will see. The sheath that both Woodman's pals come with is actually a pretty solid sheath. Like, of all the sheaths and blade masks for axes that I've dealt with over the years, these sheaths are actually probably some of the most high quality ones that I've ever dealt with. It is a bridle thickness bison leather sheath that is hand stitched by the Amish in Pennsylvania. So we have each sheath that has a split down the side with one snap and two snaps right there just to split it open to make pulling out that weird awkward shape of the Woodman's pal that much easier. We have stitching going around the outside, a riveted belt loop on this side. The only difference between the wooden handled version and the leather handled version is a slight length difference. The leather handled version is slightly longer. The wooden handled version has a little cutout right up here just to facilitate hugging around the wooden handle a little bit better. It makes for a more refined product at the end of the day. But aside from that, the build quality on both of these is the exact same. On the front, we have a Woodman's Pal stamp right up there, making it look good. The same goes for both of them. Build quality in these is pretty good. They said it is Amish hand stitched leather sheath. Amish hand stitched. If you look at those stitches, that is clearly a machine stitch. It's not hand stitched. Hand stitched would be something like a saddle stitch, sitting there with a stitch pony going in one side, out the other side with a needle, pulling it tight and going to town. This is a machine stitched sheath. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't know the Amish were allowed to use electricity. You could say, but it's one of those like foot pedaled ones like that. I don't know. It's a good question. Definitely machine stitched though, not hand stitched. Anyways, moving on, things that I don't like. These tools are absolute dog shit. Not because of not because of the blade, but because of the handles themselves. Now, when it comes to the leather handled version right here, so the leather handled version, in theory, should have been a good design. If you look at the World War II versions of these handles right here, you'll have a contoured finger groove that's right up here. You have what they call a rounded butt back here to facilitate spinning, a beveled portion right here for the little pinky finger, and the D-guard out here is actually large and rounded. The whole thing is contoured. It's smooth leather in the historical version. It actually looks nice, and it looks like it would be pleasing to the hand. What they've done with this, on the other hand, is an absolute abomination. It looks like it is on one of those $45 made in India or Pakistan cutlasses that you'd see for sale on all the Mall Ninja websites on the internet. It is terrible. It is badly finished. That's correct. They have two discs of plastic at the front and the back that look like they were finished on a 33 grit belt. So that's pretty gross. The D-guard right here is a completely squared off D-guard. Now, if you know anything about strength and the way that bends in material works, a rounded D-guard is going to be exponentially more strong than a squared off D-guard like this. There's a reason arches under bridges are rounded and not squared off. Bad design. I was trying this on with mittens, and if I was using my big winter mittens that I usually go out and process wood with when it's 40 below, it is a difficult time to try and squeeze those things in here. So why they went with that design, I don't know. And when it talks about having a rounded butt to facilitate spinning, what they mean by that is when you're out in the cut and you're actually chopping, you can take the machete and spin it in your hand like that to get a little bit more velocity in those big cuts. It is actually a saber technique, and you can grip it back here and put more reach on it. You actually can build up more speed and hit with more force that way. However, on this one, I don't know, it is hot spot city. That is a 90-degree bend back in here. And when you have your hand on it, it sucks. Any kind of vibration that goes through this at all is absolutely going to tear your shit up. And on the back here, we have this very abrasive and rough edge. It is also a 90-degree bend right here. So when you put that in the actual heel of your hand, that is going to tear it up just the same. It is a very, very uncomfortable handle. Why did they make that choice? They said that the handles on the old tools were too difficult to repair when people sent them back in for warranty services. So they simplified the handles and they made it cartoonish like this, just so the customer could repair the handle and it would be easier to repair the handle for warranty repairs. I think that is an absolute just cop-out of an answer, to be honest with you. First off, if it was a super quality product, you really wouldn't have to worry about doing constant, consistent repairs like that. Also, it detracts so much from what a good tool used to be on here that I don't think it was worth it at all. When it came to this handle, the only way that I was able to use this thing effectively and comfortably was taking a piece of medical tape and wrapping it around the back to try and build up a little bevel for the little finger. I made the back of it fat, I made the little bevel right here, and that way I was able to actually get some velocity on here and use the tool for more than half an hour without my hand feeling like it was gonna fall apart. Now, when it comes to the wooden handled version of the Woodman's Pal, I hate this one almost as much, albeit for slightly different reasons, but still involving the handle. Now, if you look at the wooden handled version of the Woodman's Pal from Skyline Toolworks, you'll see some extremely prominent finger grooves down here on the bottom. Now, historically, the Woodman's Pal were completely flat here on the bottom from blade to butt. There'd be a more prominent beak here on the back just to hold your hand in one spot. But the hump here on the back to prevent the whipping your hand from going forward is still present. I think finger grooves on anything that is mass produced for a wide variety of people is a stupid idea. One, because everybody has different sized fingers. Two, everybody grips tools differently. And three, finger grooves always hamstring you into holding the tool in the exact same spot. That's why if you see things like hoe grips on guns, some people hate them, some people love them because they're only designed for a certain size of finger. I have XXL sized hands, that's my glove size anyways, and even for me, these finger grooves are too big. I don't know whose fingers they designed these things for. Like if you choked up on here or back, there is no comfortable position on this handle that makes sense for my fingers. If I had smaller fingers, I would be absolutely cooked. If you wanted to hold the tool and choke up towards the front and do more fine carving work with this tool, finger grooves get in the way. If you wanted to grab it more towards the back and use some little extra added velocity towards the back, finger grooves also get in the way. Now, if you just wanted to hold the tool right in the middle, which with these finger grooves is the most uncomfortable position, the finger grooves still get in the way. When it comes to a tool that you're going to be primarily using one-handed, I like to have the option to switch up my grip. If I want to grab something in the very bottom like this, I can. If I want to go towards the very top, I can. If I want to choke up even more, I can. Now, when it comes to this, I don't know why you would do that. One, gripping it forward, those problems aside, if you wanted to flip it backwards and use the brush hook like this, like you're scraping down the length of a tree trunk like that, it's still going to get in the way because the finger grooves are digging into the meaty part of your hand and it's extremely uncomfortable to actually hold. Also, if you wanted to get rid of the finger grooves on this handle and smooth it out to negate everything that I just said with the finger grooves, you can't do it because the finger grooves are built into the tang of the handle. So, yep, if you want to smooth out the wood, you hit metal and you're pretty much stuck with the finger grooves for the entire handle. Fucking stupid. So handle layout and aesthetics aside, how do I think this tool actually performed when I was using it in testing? Well, there is a reason this thing's handle is bent. So when I pulled it out of the box, I first got it, I was super stoked and excited for this thing. I pulled it out of the box and I looked at the blade, and the blade itself was slightly curved towards the sickle portion right there. I thought, well, I guess it's just a feature and a result of the manufacturing process and coining the sickle blade up here. I also thought that it was kind of angling it more towards when you were using the sickle. I thought it would, add to the cut, I guess. So I didn't think anything of it. Turns out it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be perfectly straight. So I used it. I used it on a bunch of brush, small saplings. I built half a wicker fence using one of these things, cutting through small twigs, different things like that. I thought the brush hook up here was super dull, and I didn't really have any success with that at all. The cutting edge, I mean, it's pretty good. It is a pretty solid cutting edge. I was using it on small stuff up until that point. And then I had a 4.5-inch sapling that was on the ground. It's spruce, softwood. It's nothing crazy. It's not oak or hickory or anything like that. 4.5-inch spruce sapling on the ground. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna test this thing out on something slightly bigger. So, took a couple good cuts. I heard the handle start to click just a little bit, click and rattle ever so slightly, like it was actually shifting a little bit on the tang. I was like, oh well, let me just keep going. Maybe it's just working itself in. So I finished cutting through the sapling, and by the time I was done, at some point, the handle had actually bent. Now, it's nothing that I did. The only alterations that I did to that handle was actually wrap tape around the back to make it a little bit more comfortable to actually use. Aside from that, I didn't do anything else to this tool. In total, I think I was using this thing for less than an hour until it broke and bent like that. Well, the plan was to spend the next couple of days testing out the Woodman's Pal before I gave a nice review on it. However, less than 1 hour into use, the handle is already bent. So understandably, I was pretty upset at the quality of Woodman's Pal, so I sent them a professional email. I was like, hey, listen, I know you guys have a warranty service. This is the experience that I've had. This thing bent within an hour of use. What can we do about it? And less than a day later, they responded with this huge email basically explaining their entire mindset between the leather and the wooden handled designs. And they also said that I might like the wooden handled version more. So almost immediately, they sent out both a leather handled version and a wooden handled version to my door just so I could decide which one that I liked more and send the other one back. So I do have issues with the product of Woodman's Pal and Skyline Toolworks. However, their warranty service and their customer service, by far one of the best that I've ever dealt with. Now, at the end of the day, I don't work for Skyline Toolworks, and I'm certainly not sponsored by them. However, if I was in charge of the company, a couple of the things that I would do moving forward is I would separate a lot of the stuff. I would offer a basic package and a deluxe package. If somebody wants all the stuff that comes with it, cool. They could pay for the $150 deluxe package. If not, they just want the tool with like a simple canvas or Cordura sheath, $70. Also, I would simplify the handle design. I would get rid of these finger grooves. I'd change up the leather one, bring it back. But I'd also introduce some synthetic materials to the lineup. Like if you didn't want ash and beeswax, offer something like micarta. I think micarta is the best handle material for a knife ever. It's amazing. Increases grip when it's wet. Phenomenal. Like if Woodman's Pal had the original handle design in micarta, I think this thing would be one of the best outdoor tools you could possibly get. Now, that's just me. I think if they made those changes, simple sheath options, lowered the price a little bit, I think they could actually make a significant impact in the outdoor market. But as the tool is right now, I think it is just kind of a historical gimmick that people buy because they like history, not necessarily for the actual tool and usability of it. Well, this video has been exponentially longer than I thought it would be when I started filming. However, generally speaking, I don't have to flame a product that hard and give my honest thoughts. So if you've stuck around this long, I appreciate it a lot. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know if you have any experience with the Woodman's Pal and anything that you would improve personally. Again, I'm saying I have no issues with Woodman's Pal as a company. However, their product is absolute shit. So, thanks for watching. Until next time.